All right. Good morning, good afternoon, those who have joined us today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest installment of our Quick Hit series, back by popular demand. I'm Anil Hirjani, SVP of Product and Growth here at Hireology. And for this series, we're going to focus each webinar on a different takeaway from our recent applicant research. So the goal here is to really get in the minds of applicants and then offer advice on what you can do to meet job seekers' expectations. With that, let's start to dig in. All right, so our first featured stat from our research is about, you guessed it, job descriptions. A third of our survey respondents said that they won't even apply to a job if the job description doesn't list the benefits offered. And this makes sense, right? I mean, if you think about it, people have so many options for work these days, and applying for jobs is time consuming. Why would they ever apply for a job if they're not confident it meets their needs? So to put this another way, if you're not communicating everything you offer clearly and effectively, and this means more than just saying you have health insurance or other benefits, you're missing out on a third of your potential applicants. So for the rest of this presentation, I wanted to dig into actionable insights that you can take to beef up your job descriptions to win over those job seekers who want to know what's in it for them. And you can take those actions today. All right. Benefits, of course, are a critical part of the overall job description formula. A good JD, excuse me, a good JD highlights them and much more. This is how we recommend our customers format their JDs to maximize reach and applicants. We'll dig into each one of these more in depth, but it's important to always start with a simple and clear job title, followed by a job summary, then highlight your benefits, followed by responsibilities and requirements, then company overview, and finally an EEO statement. So let's dig in on what each of these pieces of the formula looks like. And let's get going. So we're going to go through do's, don'ts, and examples. First up is job titles. So you want to keep these titles between 1 and 3 words. Any longer, and people are going to get confused about what the job is. And most importantly, Google isn't going to rank them as high in its own job board. And don't include anything extra you might think will entice job seekers, like, for example, automotive technician, $20 an hour. It's so tempting to do it, but in reality, this just makes your jobs look and feel like scams, and people just don't trust it. The job boards will deprioritize it. You know, the younger generations especially have good internet literacy skills. I can't pronounce today, and they see this type of stuff as just untrustworthy. And make sure you can align with industry standards, right? That rather than using jargon that's unique to your company, and we'll show you some examples on the next slide of what to do. All right, yeah, let's take a look. So just start with simple titles, standard titles: automotive technician, caregiver, housekeeper, bartender. Short, simple, and when you see them, you know what they mean because they're standard in their respective businesses. This is largely driven by the job boards. They want to organize things in a very standardized way so that they can map that in their databases and provide relevant results. So putting extraneous information oftentimes just leads to more confusion and just drops through the cracks. So look at the bad. You'll see the added details actually in parentheses in the first two. You may think this actually grabs people's attention, but like I said before, it just really makes it look untrustworthy. And further down, you get into some really complex titles that they're likely unique to the company that just really aren't clear what they are. You may be tempted to give your jobs these type of titles to make them seem elevated, but really it's just confusing to your audience and miss out on your applicants as a result. I like Accounting Ninja, but let's not put it on a job board. Feel free to use it internally, but it's not going to work to get your applicants' interest. All right, next up, let's take another example, part of the formula. So job summary. This one isn't as traditional as some of the other aspects we'll be going over today. So I want to give you a quick definition of job summary. Job summary contains the job title and gives a brief description of the job. The goal is for this blurb to show up in a search engine result and be the first thing folks see. So it really should give you just a clear summary in 1 or 2 sentences of what the job is. It should always repeat the job title so that it helps boost your SEO value. So let's take an example in the next slide. All right. So in this job summary, you see it has the title and the job in it, and it gives a quick glimpse into what the job is and what is required of someone who applies. It's enough to just give a clear picture of the role and entice someone to click. If it's too jargony or convoluted, people will just get confused. And if you don't include anything and jump right to the benefits or company description, you miss out on the opportunity to quickly capture the attention of the job seeker, what exactly the role is. Again, most of these recommendations are based off just data, millions of data points that tell you what's going to drive someone to look at something. Now, every little bit counts. I want to make sure that, some of these things sound really intuitive, but they're missed out. We see this all the time. They're quite often missed out. So these are just best practice reminders. Let's look at now benefits. Kind of the obvious one, right? You want to dig into this. What's in it for the job seeker? Why should they apply to this job? What are they getting out of it? I think the biggest mistake we see customers making is that rather than approaching this from the candidate's perspective, they approach it from the company's perspective and focus on what the company gets. So this is where you list your standard medical, dental benefits and 401k options. But remember, this isn't going to make you stand out alone because everybody, for the most part, offers this, right? Most employers already do this, so you have to dig deeper and really peel out why someone might want to work for you. What's so unique about you? So note anything unique, like your culture or your career growth opportunities. If possible, do you want to list a range of pay? Because most people do like to see this before applying. That might be controversial in some circles, but I can tell you that once you do that, you actually get a lot more interest of the people that are qualified for the role and actually desire that role for that pay range. So don't be shy, give it a shot. By the way, you can always A/B test it. You can take it off if necessary later on if you don't feel comfortable or you're not having the right conversation, but give it a whirl. There's really no risk. All right, let's look at some examples. So you'll see both of these talk about work-life balance, flexibility, growth, perks that are much more than those soft benefits, but really are important to people. And of course, they do list those important benefits like 401k, medical plans, and so on, because people do need to see those as well. But both do a nice job of painting a full picture of what someone gets out of working for them other than just a paycheck. I think this is pretty interesting. After shift drink in the bottom example, so kind of unique. All right, so let's go into responsibilities and qualifications. When it comes to both, the bottom line is you just want to be clear and measurable. Don't be fluffy or vague. When it comes to qualifications specifically, you want to make sure that these are measurable too. So 3 years of experience in X field or related field, rather than general interest or knowledge of a field, right? The more you're able to articulate the amount of time someone is in a field, they're more likely to self-select into the job if they already have that experience. It's important to also break it down into bullet points for scannability, and because Google tends to prioritize content that is more readable and broken down into tidbits like this. Again, these are some of the things that we've learned over many years of looking at Google and how they rank different jobs, and these are things that you can do very easily to drive that outcome in terms of SEO. Some examples. You'll see here, these are clear and measurable. 2 years of experience in customer service, high school diploma, specific computer skills are in there, ability to lift, certain amount of weight, again, ability to stand for long periods of time. It's just more clear, more specific. So again, really encourage you to drive towards that. Here's an example of good responsibilities outlines are different from the qualifications. It's very specific, right? Just take a scan through. It's not using any jargon per se or trying to really sell it. It's just kind of honing in right on what this is. When it comes to job descriptions, this is how we think about it. You may start to say, well, I might want to sell it in a job description. We'll get into this later, but your career site really starts to do that. But really, job descriptions, this is the formula. Follow it, and you're going to be in good shape. Okay. Next up is the company blurb. This is where you can then start to layer in the job description, complementing your career site. You do some selling, right? the company blurb. This is where you want to sell your company as a great place to work. This is different from your benefits. This is about what makes you unique as an employer. So things like, are you family owned? How much have you grown over the last several years? What about any awards you give out? Do you have a mission statement that can align with someone's purpose? Anything to show that you're stable and trustworthy employer should go over here, right? This is just a tidbit. Again, it complements your career site. So let's take a look. So some examples. The first one talks about being family owned, right? Holiday Automotive. And their mission is to be genuine and engage with customers, talking about how they put people first. Again, kind of a nice feel good, make sure that it aligns with someone's emotional desires here. The second one is actually from us. We want to show that we practice what we preach. We mentioned that our company has grown to show that we're stable and growing. And then we mentioned awards and the size of the company as well. This just paints a bigger picture, a better picture for the job seeker. All right, so now we went through all of that. Let's go through the EEO statement. Last but not certainly, this is critical to demonstrate to job seekers that you're committed to providing equal opportunity for all individuals who apply. Some tips here, of course, be specific and say that you're an EEO employer, and be specific about who you're committed to providing equal opportunity for. And note exactly what this applies to, which is more likely than just hiring, but also promotions and terminations as well, right? And include more than just providing EEO. Note any efforts you've made to promote diversity and inclusion as well. This will just go beyond lip service and it'll go a long way. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. You'll see Hireology again. We list how specifically we provide EEO regardless of race or color, etc. And we make decisions based on business need, but we also make a mention of our inclusion workplace policy. So that's a little added benefit there. And same with the second one here. We took another example, very good example with the specifics of who exactly is protected. So again, some tips. Feel free to beg, borrow, steal. This is where you can steal here and use some of these and tweak it for your own purposes. And now we're in other best practices. I might have skipped over the slide with the examples. So if you want to take a 5-second scan over the examples for EEO before we move on. All right, let's go into other best practices. So this is finally, you want to touch base on this. Again, don't be tempted to create, you've heard advice, but about duplicate job postings. It might help you with top of the funnel. Don't create duplicate job postings in the same area. Even if you change your job title, the job boards know you're doing this. They just know it. It's so tempting to think that this is going to work for you. You can get dinged for this by the boards. And they're optimizing for a good candidate experience. They recognize that if you just multiple posts or duplicate posts, that candidates will have a poor experience as a result. They won't hear from one or another. And so, they consider that spam content. Okay. So, in short, don't spam the job boards with duplicate posts, but do keep your job posting dates current for maximum visibility, in the sense that, you can hard refresh your jobs 30 to 45 days out. They tend to get stale. The job boards tend to start to deprioritize. But if you're still looking at that point in time, encourage you to refresh, but also relook at the job description. How are you presenting this ad to the world? Keep your JD between 300 and 800 words for best SEO value. Google likes those long pieces of content. And like I mentioned before, how they're broken down into readable sections with bullet points. Actually, within Hireology, we actually help drive that with our job description wizard. And pay attention to spelling and grammar. This is your first impression. We see this all the time, that job descriptions are put together hastily and therefore have some grammatical errors, and that does reflect on the brand. So this kind of goes without saying, to be honest, right? All right. Well, that was nice and quick. That's all I have for you today. Of course, any questions you may have, we'll take a look at the chat to see whether there are any. And of course, any questions after this, how we can improve your recruiting efforts with great job descriptions and more, you can always reach out to us directly at info@hireology.com. Take a quick look at the chat. Doesn't look like we have anything there. We'll give it a 30 seconds or so. All right, doesn't look like we're going to see anything filing in. I want to thank you very much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to spend time with our customers and prospects interested in this topic. Any questions you have, info@hireology.com. Please stay tuned for the next and register for the next quick hit series webinars. We're going to go well beyond job descriptions. I think you'll find a lot of benefit. Again, have a great Wednesday, everybody. Thank you for joining.